Hey there, friends. How's it going? My name's Popeye. We get some more Umineko Question Arc 2 for you today. Before we get into it, this game has some pretty mature themes, so I want to put the trigger warnings out for everyone. This game includes themes including but not limited to death, torture, dismemberment, gore, depictions, and descriptions of that, as well as child abuse and any of the above against a minor. Hello, Sam says hello, Panic. I mean, it's June. How has no one taken the can of Burden yet? Doing good. It's still hot. I'm not sure how it is for you guys. It's still like 30 Celsius here. It's not a good time. It's good for 5 years. Excuse me. Yeah, yesterday for us, I don't think it was quite that hot, but it was like 108, 109 freedom units, so, yeah, it's not a good time. And I think for us, we're supposed to get a big rainstorm tomorrow evening, so I think it's going to start cooling down for us kind of into Friday, but, oh, jeez. But yeah, let's recap what we know so far. So first of all, we started with Demon Tea Time, which was something that we had originally missed from the first question arcs. I didn't realize that there were 2 tea times, where we learn that Beatrice is basically doing this for her own enjoyment, and there's other witches and observers here who are here for the entertainment. And then where we are currently is actually before the family reunion. We're learning about George and Shannon's backstory, how they kind of got into dating. And we've jumped around the timeline a bit. So we've seen them on a date at an aquarium. We've seen that Shannon actually makes a deal with Beatrice to destroy some relic that's controlling Beatrice's power in exchange for Beatrice essentially hooking them up, because George had been in talks for like a pre-arranged marriage that would, like benefit in terms of status. So that's kind of what we know, and this comes, the scene, if we're still in chronological order, comes right after Shannon and Kanon encountering Beatrice and Beatrice making the offer.
別部屋ってなんだよ。じゃあわざわざシャノンとジョージ兄さんは別の部屋に泊まったのかよ。はい。
Seems like it's a bit further than that.
そんなにもおかしかったでしょうか。
Since Jessica's cheeks have been stuffed with the chocolate-coated Chinsuko biscuit. I'm not quite sure what that is. It's some kind of like rice flour biscuit that Shannon had brought as a souvenir from Okinawa. Okay, so this is actually, we've jumped to, they've just returned from their date instead. So we've jumped ahead quite a bit, actually. It all flew out at Shannon when Jessica cried out.
Shannon さ、何のために沖縄まで旅行に行ったんだよ。それもジョージ兄さんと2人っきりで。 それはとても大きな水族館が沖縄にあるからぜひ行こうって誘われて、私お魚とか好きですし。いやだからさ、健全な男女がお泊まりありで旅行に行ったわけだろ。それでチューもなければギューもないのかよ。ましてや部屋は男女で別部屋ってなんだよ。チューについてはノーコメントです。 でも牛はありましたよ。ジョージさんの胸温かかったです。そういうことじゃねえぜ。なあもう、なんだってこんなカップルがいるんだよ。なあもう、じれってえぜ。
From Shannon's perspective, a lot of things had happened, and it seemed to have been a very happy trip. It looks like the missed opportunity left Jessica feeling greatly unfulfilled. To Jessica, this is her version of Love Island. For a while, Jessica chewed on her souvenir, writhing on her bed as she complained about their romance. Shannon and George had chosen to go to Okinawa because there was a huge aquarium there. That was because their first meeting had revolved around an aquarium. Since they had started at an aquarium, having their first overnight trip also be at an aquarium must have held some commemorative value.
そんな記念の節目の初のお泊まり旅行ならいろいろと進展するもんがあるはずだぜ。それが男女別部屋、カップルでシングルを2部屋。ああ、もう本当にどうかしてるぜ。それはお互い独身の男女ですし、ジョージさんがそこをしっかりするのが男女のマナーだとおっしゃって。だからそれを踏み越えるためのお泊まり旅行じゃねえのかよ。もはやキューとかギューとかのレベルじゃねえぜ。お嬢様がどういう意味でおっしゃってるのかわかりませんが、ジョージ様は最後まで本当に真摯でいてくださいました。それは私もそういうことがあるかなというか。でも私たちお付き合いはしてますけど、別に結婚してるわけじゃないし、お嬢様が期待されているようなことはちゃんと神様の前で誓いを立ててからするべきです。するべきです。
Shannon's face was bright red. She was restlessly fidgeting, making a circle with both hands, then a chain link, continually intertwining, separating, and making heart shapes with them. Apparently, the dramatic progress Jessica had looked forward to hadn't happened. It seemed to have been a very important experience for Shannon in her own way. In the end, no matter how much Jessica envied Shannon or made fun of her, it didn't change the fact that Shannon had a huge lead on her.
私も彼氏欲しい。シャノンに先を越されたのが悔しい。彼氏作るときは一緒だぜって約束したのに抜け駆けされた。お嬢様は素敵な方ですから、私なんかよりきっと素敵な方がすぐに現れます。そういう慰めはいらねえぜ。シャノンの裏切り者、出ていけ。うぜー。
At least we're not trying to date our cousin. That's good. Yeah, just make deals with witches. Jessica threw several cushions at her, but midway she had an asthma attack and started to cough pretty badly. Shannon hurriedly ran over to her and took a look on top of the nearby table. An adorable basket was placed there, and inside of it was Jessica's inhaler. Shannon picked it up and handed it over to Jessica. Jessica's asthma attacks always came suddenly. Because of this, she had to carry this medicine around with her at all times. She breathed in the medicine. After some time spent holding back her coughing, her asthma finally settled down. Shannon thought this a good chance to leave, bowed courteously, and made to exit the room. As she did, one more small cushion came flying and hit Shannon on the head. She looked around and saw that Jessica was on the verge of crying, half of her face buried in her last and favorite cushion. That face was red and meek.
お嬢様？シャノンさ、正直に言って、私、髪型とか変かな。まさか。お嬢様の髪はとてもお美しいと思います。じゃあ、目とか変かな。鼻とか変じゃないかな。やっぱり喋り方がダメなのかな。だから彼氏できないのかな。そんなはずはありませんよ。お嬢様はそのままで十分に素敵です。そしてその魅力はこれからもっともっと増していくと思いますよ。でも私だけ彼氏できない。
サクもヒナも彼氏できたのに、私にだけできないよ。やっぱり私には魅力ないからかな。みんなね、文化祭に彼氏連れてくるんだって。私もその日までにはきっと彼氏いるって思って大見え切って、彼氏なんてできやしない。私だけ。
Before she realized it, Jessica was shedding huge tears. Jessica hadn't really planned on crying, and of course, she felt like supporting Shannon's progress and love as a friend. However, she'd made fun of Shannon. Her true feelings had suddenly gotten mixed in, and the tears had just poured out on their own. Shannon understood Jessica's innocent and easily injured heart. Jessica's usual rough style of speech was all just an attempt to protect her own easily injured heart. As a daughter and successor to the Ushiromiya family, and as a girl isolated on Rokkenjima, the only person she could expose her true feelings to was Shannon. Shannon understood that, but she strongly regretted feeling a little too self-satisfied.
ごめん、涙出ちゃうなんて。私変だぜ。ごめん。
お嬢様は素敵な方です。そんなお嬢様に素敵な男性が現れないわけがありません。
シャノン、もう時間だろ。早く行かないとまたゲンジさんや母さんに怒られるぜ。私は全然平気だから早く行きなよ。悪いな、泣いちゃったりなんかしてさ。バカみてえだぜ、私。
Jessica faced away as if to show she wasn't looking for attention, and waved her hand as though to drive Shannon away. Shannon took that as a sign that she didn't want to be badgered anymore, bowed her head and left the room. Her footsteps disappeared into the distance. Jessica lay in her bed, still hugging the cushion. Her expression was still a little meek, with tears in her eyes, but for the first time in a long time she had a very, very quiet and honest conversation with her heart. Now it's daytime. As Shannon watered the flower beds in the garden in high spirits, she sensed someone's presence. She turned around, thinking that if one of the family had come to visit, she must greet them. What she saw was that witch.
ベアトリーチェ様。
久しぶりよの。どうだ？その後、そなたの思い人との仲は順調か？
As Beatrice sat on the rose arch, she happily blew on her pipe. Sitting in a place like that would crush the roses, and it might have been dangerous if he fell off the arch. But after all, this was a witch. That was surely an unnecessary concern.
Hi.
So I think, you know those, like, where you have, like, the arch and then they've let roses grow up? So she's sitting at the top. Whatever, like 6 or 7 feet above her.
おかげさまです。その順調です。
当然よ。わらわの魔法
But
は
apparently
適
witches
面
weigh
で。
nothing. This is the same rose garden, yes.
そなたにはまるで二人が出会うのはあらかじめ決められた運命であったか
And
の
in
よ
the
うに
background
感じてい
between
る
the
か
two of
も
them, you
しれ
can
ん。
see the, what do you call it? Whatever the name is for that building in the middle of a garden that Shannon and George have their conversation with, where he proposes to her.
だがそれは間違いよ。夢夢、運命だなどと思うでないぞ。
それは分かってます。
The witch was calling attention to something. 2 things, actually. That originally her relationship with George had been completely impossible. That her magic power was so great it could manipulate that fate. Shannon had become swept up in these sweet days and had started to fall into the illusion that all fate was revolving around her. But the witch's word made her remember. Her relationship with George had originally been impossible. No, might also be impossible in the future as well.
すまぬすまぬ。医者と同じよ。病に悩めばすがるくせに、治れば感謝も忘れる。魔女が感謝された試しはないのでな。つい卑屈になってしまった。許すがいい。
感謝の気持ちを忘れたことはありません。ベアトリーチェ様のお力で幸せな思いができていること、そしてそのお力がなければ私とジョージ様が寄り添う運命がなかったこと、決して忘れたことはありません。
すまぬすまぬ。いじめに来たわけではないのにな。口が悪いのはわらわが性分。許されよ。それより、聞いたぞ聞いたぞ。二人きりで旅行に行ったとな。さぞや楽しかったであろう。
はい、とても楽しかったです。
Shannon's face suddenly grew bright. The witch laughed lightly, as though that transformation was worth money.
もはやそなたの思い人は一方的に思うだけの存在ではない。互いに思い思われる恋人同士よ。愛に満たされた二人にとって世界はただそれだけで成立する。素晴らしき理想の世界かな。
So Beatrice in the last stream had said that there's only one true element in the world, love, which is maybe why she's so interested in this, Shannon and George's relationship. Beatrice laughed pleasantly. That smile was without a trace of malice, making her look as though she blessed the lover's secret meeting from the bottom of her heart. After that day, Beatrice had shown herself before Shannon every once in a while. Even now, Shannon still thought of her as a creepy being. However, she was also hugely indebted to this person for bestowing the magic that had given her the relationship she had with George. So Shannon was trying with all her might not to be surprised or scared.
そうだった。ベアトリーチェ様、旅行のお土産にお菓子を買ってきたんです。よかったらベアトリーチェ様もいかがでしょうか。
ほう、魔女に土産とな。
It seemed that even the witch who boasted of living for 1,000 years hadn't been able to predict that she would receive a souvenir from a pair of sweet lovers. When she saw that surprised expression, Shannon thought of the witch as a friend for the first time. Which is going to make it even worse when she kills you.
ラードと小麦粉で作った東洋クッキーか。
Hey, someone explains what those cookies are for us. Thank you. It's not rice flour, just wheat flour and
そ
lard.
れを西洋風にチョコで包むとは、まさに和洋折衷、菓子のシルクロードよの。なんだ、何がおかしい？
いえ、失礼いたしました。
This mysterious witch, who surely held a terrifying power, was chomping down on the treats one after another, making a sound like a squirrel stuffing walnuts into its mouth. After a while, Shannon couldn't conceal her laughter.
しそうになったぞ。そなたには今度、ネロのドルチェビータでも振る舞おうぞ。バラは永遠の愛の象徴。今のそなたには、バラのドルチェこそがふさわしかろう。
The witch was in a great mood, having enjoyed the modern treats to the full.
これ、本当にありがとうございました。もう私には十分だと思いますので、お返しします。
The thing that Shannon had softly set on the table was a gold-colored butterfly brooch.
返さずともよい。それに、持ち続けていれば、二人の仲はこれからも永遠に盤石であろうが。
Okay, so it seems like Beatrice's power is physically manifested as a golden butterfly brooch that Shannon needs to hold on to. Let's hold this knowledge in our
出
heads.
会いのきっかけは、確かに魔法の力で与えてもらったかもしれません。でも、その出会いを永遠のものにする努力は、二人で協力し合って続けていくものだと思います。
愛もバラと同じか。過ぎた世日は根を腐らせ、苦労せねば育めぬ花もあろう。ならば好きにするがよい。身につけず宝石箱の中にしまうもよかろう。それはそなたに送ったわらわの好意だ。それを返されてはわらわも愉快ではない。
申し訳ございません。そういう意味で言ったわけじゃ。
気を害してなどおらぬ。そのブローチはすでにそなたのもの。わらわとの友情の証にせいぜい大事にしてくれれば、持ち続けそのご利益を得るもよし、宝石箱にしまい込むもよし、望むなら恋路に悩む別の者に譲ろうと、そなたの勝手だ。
So the magic is transferable.
ただ大事にしてくれればよい。さすがに粗末にされては心が痛むでな。
According to Beatrice, she had appeared several times in the past in response to a person's summons so that she could give them an item imbued with some kind of magical power. However, most of them, after that power was used to resolve their worries, would quickly come to think of that power as creepy, and forgetting their feelings of thanks, they would throw the items away they had been given with disgust.
だからわらわの行為に素直に感謝された試しは多くない。
So in, I guess, like the ocean or somewhere, there are several pieces that probably bring, like love, fortune, money, power.
いや、初めてか。
The witch laughed heartily, but it looked like a sad laugh to Shannon's eyes. She herself had been like that in the past. No, maybe she was still like that now. Beatrice was definitely a witch with a strange and terrifying power. Most likely, no one would go along with her if they could help it. Even though on occasion they had relied on her strange power, it had undoubtedly resulted in fear more often than gratitude. It must have deeply hurt the witch when that repeated over and over. From the moment that she realized this, Shannon decided to stop being frightened of Beatrice. That had surely tormented her for over 1,000 years. Maybe she really liked the treats. Beatrice, who normally spoke abusively, praised the black tea that Shannon served her, and looked to be in remarkably high spirits. On such terms, the witch and the servant grew animated talking about the trip with George. Shannon didn't know much about Beatrice. First off, she was a ghost-like being who appeared in unexpected places at unexpected times, and it seemed that not everyone could perceive that she was there. It seemed that each person had something called a wavelength, and there was a great amount of individual variation in people's abilities to perceive the witch. Only Shannon and Kanon could interact with her enough to exchange words like this. There were a few people who could sense her presence, but most couldn't even feel that much. Okay. So, from what we know, let's pull up the list. So, the people who we know who can see Beatrice. Oh, and Beatrice is now a character. That's interesting. Likes black tea and ice cream, hates boredom, those who deny her. I think this was the same that was on the other one. So the people who we know who can see her. Shannon and Kanon, as was just described. Maria, it seems like, can see her. And then we know that Genji can sense her at the very least from the scene in the kitchen with Battler, Maria, Kanon, Genji, and Kumasawa. They're all, and in fact maybe even Kumasawa as well, they're all looking past Battler at something or someone else, which is believed to be Beatrice. But it seems like none of the adults or kids, except for Maria, nor the doctor, and maybe not Goda either, can see nor sense her. From what Beatrice said, Kraus and his wife in particular had zero magical talent. No matter how much you followed them around, they would never notice her. Previously, when Shannon had messed up and Natsuhi had gotten really mad at her, Beatrice had started playing around, hitting Natsuhi in the head with her pipe. Indeed, Natsuhi seems completely oblivious, but Shannon, watching that, had burst out laughing without thinking and had gotten scolded even more. I hope your dinner is a good dinner.
親方様だったらどうでしょうか。魔法の研究とかをなさ
Oh,
っ
and I
ている
guess
そう
the
ですし、
grandfather.
きっとベアトリーチェ様のお姿にも気づいてくださると思います。
金蔵も同じよ。あれにも気の毒なくらいに魔法の才能がない。
Interesting. Kinzo has the most pitiful lack of magical talent.
同情に値するほど才能がない。
Okay, so they're asserting that this is genetic, which immediately means any of the direct kids or grandkids are very unlikely to have the ability. Spouses, possibly, although she's already said Natsuki doesn't. Which means Maria, who we don't know who her father is, I guess her father has good magical intuition. As soon as they started talking about Kinzo, it felt like the atmosphere around Beatrice changed. She'd spoken about Kraus and the rest's lack of magic talent as though she looked down on them, but she spoke of Kinzo in a different way. Anyone connected to the Ushirmiya family would know about Kinzo's legend of the gold. According to the legend, Kinzo had summoned the witch Beatrice and had been conferred gold. In short, that implied that she had some kind of relationship with Kinzo.
だからあれは才能のひとかけらもないくせに狂ったように独学を重ね魔術師の域にまで達した。
それはとてもすごいことなんですね。
So he has no innate magical abilities, but has studied very hard. The witch who usually looked down on people was unexpectedly praising someone. While she lambasted Kinzo, calling him talentless, she praised his
そ
efforts.
して親方様は魔法の力でベアトリーチェ様を呼び出した。
まあ召喚に応えたのは気まぐれだ。魔法を否定して久しいこのご時世に才能のかけらもないものが必死にやっているのでな。少しからかってやろうと思ったのがわらわの運の尽きよ。
The words, "just my luck," showed that this had been a disaster for her. Shannon hesitated over whether it would be alright to encourage her to continue, but Beatrice continued on her own, ignoring Shannon.
一応書式もルールも揃っていた。いくつかの作法が混在していたが、まあその熱意に免じ寛大に契約に応じてやったのだ。そしてわらわは山なす黄金を与えてやった。
そして親方様はその黄金を使って事業を成功させ、
魔法の才能はからっきしだが詳細と莫細はあったようだな。いや理不尽なる賭けに
We
全
are
て
sure
を落
this
と
is
す
not an
勇気
answer
と
arc.
狂気ゆえにか。狂気は時に魔力に通ずる。なるほど。その点から見れば金蔵に魔法の才能が全くなかったとは言い切れんか。
This one is Rondo of the Witch and Reasoning, so let me... Because they all have different names, which is helpful. Umineko Question arc names. I don't want the anime, because the anime is not very helpful. Yeah. Apparently the... Yeah, it can't get 100% pure gold. Shannon felt like she was daydreaming. While everyone in the Ushiromiya family knew of the story that Kinzo had delved into sorcery, summoned a witch, and been given gold, in actuality it was all rambling that no one believed in. Now the witch herself was telling her that it was true. Shannon felt a little flustered at this insane secret that only she knew.
そして莫大な財産を得た金蔵は人の世で手に入れることのできるすべての夢を叶えきった。そして最後に世界の真理を求めたのだ。
世界の真理
Well, I guess this explains why Kinzo has never been able to see Beatrice again, because she only answered him on a whim, and he doesn't have the actual magical power to summon her.
世界を構成する一なる元素、人の世で得られるすべてを満たした金蔵は人が求める最後の欲望として
A single element. She felt she'd heard the witch say those words before. Beatrice saw Shannon trying to remember what that was. She smiled awkwardly, waving her hand and saying there was no need to remember.
わらわも金蔵を少し見くびっていた。まさかあれほどの力を見せるとは思わなかったのでな。おかげでこのざまだ。茶飲み友達もなく、この島にもう何十年も縫い止められている。
Okay, so as part of the agreement, Beatrice needs to stay on the island with Kinzo, and has for several
誰に話し
decades.
かけようとも声は届かず、どこへ行くこともできない。なんとも退屈な数十年だったことよ。
As she laughed in self-derision, she tapped her teacup with her finger, made the clear sound of porcelain. Shannon didn't know whether the word self-derision was really an accurate expression to describe the look on the witch's face. Shannon didn't understand everything, but she could more or less figure out the situation. It was surely a topic that she should not press the witch on lightly, unless the witch started talking about it herself. Sum up everything she had said until now. Beatrice, who had been summoned by Kinzo's magic, could not leave this island for some reason, and she had lost her power and her form, living her days in boredom. During that time, her words had reached Shannon, who never forgot to strongly respect the witch. She had made Shannon help her regain her power, even if only a little bit. As a result, she'd become able to drink tea with Shannon like this.
ベアトリーチ様が私に割るように言ったあの鏡は一体何なのですか？
ああ、その話か。この辺りの島で大昔いろいろとあったらしくてな。そのせいで良くないものがたまり、悪い歪みを引き寄せていたのだ。それを旅の東洋魔術師か何かが鎮魂の社を建立して封じ込めたらしい。それ自体はわらわとはどうでもいいことなのだが、困ったことに魔力の基礎が違っててな。わらわの魔力にも強い干渉を及ぼしておって非常に迷惑していたのだ。
そうだったんですか。私はてっきりベアトリーチ様を封じていたものだとばかり。
わらわを対象にしたものではない。だが神格のある鏡だったからな。結果としてわらわ料理に例えるならこうか。わらわの注文した西洋料理が厨房でまさに料理されているとする。ところがいざ配膳しようとしたら客席は日本風で懐石料理が並べられている場だった。だから厨房は場違いな皿を出せず、わらわのところへは いつまで経っても西洋料理が届かない。だからそなたに日本風の客席を打ち壊し、場を一度白紙に戻させたのだ。そのおかげでようやくわらわの注文した料理が届き、力が戻ったというところか。
I guess she now has the power to shape it as she
もっとも
wants.
ようやく食前酒が届いたというところよ。メインディッシュにはまだまだ遠い。今のわらわなど靴屋の妖精にも劣る希薄な存在でな。ん？何がおかしい？
魔女様の例えがあまりに面白かったもので、まさか魔法の話がお料理の話に例えられるとは思いませんでした。
我ながらうまい表現だったつもりだが、よもや笑われるとは思わなかったぞ。少し心外だ。
Slightly sulky expression rose to the witch's face. Not have been a strained expression at all to see appear on the face of two friends as they enjoyed their tea.
こう見えても、昔は残酷極まりないことで知られ
Yes,
たわら
tell
わ
us more
だ
about
っ
the
たが、
brutal things you have done.
丸くなったものよ。
If what she's doing right now is soft, I want to know that backstory.
たわいない話で茶を交わせるようになるのだから。
She's probably talking to herself. Beatrice gazed at the seabirds tracing the horizon. She put her tea to her lips
雲が出
again.
てきたな。海も精彩をかけば灰色の水たまりに過ぎぬ。
そうでしょうか。曇っても海は美しくて真っ青だと思います。
Maybe the witch had noticed the deep meaning behind Shannon's words. She laughed lightly as she set her empty teacup down.
もはやそなたの両目に埋められているのはどうだ？家具から人間に生まれ変わった気持ちは理解できておるか？
はい。世界がこんなにも優しかったなんて知りませんでした。
Since her relationship with George had begun, Shannon's face had grown brighter more often. Her smile had made everything go smoothly, and had even changed her luck. Shannon made fewer mistakes in her work than she had before, and the family members' opinion of her was starting to change slightly. Just the other day, Krauss, who rarely exchanged words with her, had suddenly started talking to her, surprising her.
最近いい笑顔をすることが多くなったじゃないか。何か良いことでもあったのかね。
いえ、でも楽しい毎日です。
良いことじゃないか。同じコーヒーなら笑顔で継がれた方がうまいに決まっている。その笑顔でもう一杯頼めんかね。
はい。
That had become a chance for Shannon to gain confidence in herself. Of course, it didn't go beyond her own heart, and it wasn't so big a change that everyone could see it. But she'd begun to change bit by bit. Shannon understood it clearly. To know love was to gain a soul, and therefore to be born again from furniture to a human. There was absolutely nothing mistaken in Beatrice's words. By knowing love, Shannon had learned what it was to be human.
珍しい茶化をちそうになったな。有意義な時間であった。そろそろ仕事に戻らねばならぬ時間であろう。茶会はこれまでにしよう。そなたとわらわが茶を飲むことを好かん者もおるようでな。
The witch gripped a teaspoon and flipped it with her fingers, sending it up in the air. Then it was flicked by the fingers of some invisible person in empty space, flew straight into a bush close nearby. The bush moved violently, and Kanon came out. It seemed that he had been there for some time and had been watching their tea party. The spoon was gripped in his hand. Not been able to catch by reflex, it might have hit him hard in the forehead and caused him to start oozing blood.
安心せよ。茶会はこれで終わるぞ、カノン。
いつからそこにいたの？声をかけてくれればカノン君の紅茶も入れたのに。
女同士の語らいを 邪魔したくなかったのであろう。
Kanon kept silent, but it seemed there was a slightly hostile look in his eyes. On the outside, he acted respectfully. Unlike Shannon, Kanon did not trust the witch. Beatrice rapped the table with her pipe, and the tea set turned into gold butterflies which flew upwards in unison. They scattered in every direction, and cleanup was already done.
楽しかったぞ、シャノン。また縁があれば会おうぞ。まだまだ魔力が足りぬでな。姿を現すのも疲れる。
そんなに疲れるなら二度と現れるな。
Kanon had said it in a small voice, but it seemed the witch had heard it perfectly. She giggled, but did not reply.
シャノン、次の茶会ではジョージとの話をまた聞かせておくれ。人の恋路より甘い茶花は他に。それではさらばだ。
Beatrice's body also became gold butterflies, which scattered in all directions and disappeared. It was a very fantastical and beautiful scene, like a blizzard of gold leaf. For a while, Shannon quietly watched the witch's exit. Kanon approached her from behind and spoke with a very different expression on his face than his sister's.
姉さん、あいつと付き合っちゃダメだって言った。
ベアトリーチェ様はそんなに悪い人じゃない。確かにちょっと怪しいところはあるけれど。
僕たちにしか姿が見えない時点で十分にうさんくさいよ。あいつは人間じゃない。何を企んでるかわかるものか。
カノン君、それは少し失礼だと思うな。
Shannon spoke seriously, which was unusual for her. To Kanon, who knew her well, it must have seemed extremely serious. Kanon showed almost excessive surprise at Shannon's style of speech and remained silent.
確かにベアトリーチェ様は人間とは違う。恐ろしい力を持っているし、恐れ敬わなければならない存在だと思う。でも人間とは違うからといってそれだけを理由に忌み嫌うのはとても失礼なことだと思うの。
姉さんの言いたいことはわかるよ。姉さんはあいつにあのブローチをもらってから変わった。まるで魔女の虜だよ。ジョージ様との仲を取り持ってもらって頭が上が。
そんなことを言わないで。
あいつは人間じゃない。何を考えてるかわからない。だから気を許しちゃダメなんだ。そして人間じゃないのは僕らも同じだよ。姉さん。
Kanon's words became more serious. Those words probably gouged at Shannon's heart. Shannon bit her lower lip and hung her head.
僕らは家具だ。たとえ名前をもらい人として接してもらったとしても、僕
You are no longer furniture. Those words Beatrice had given her, which made her happiest of all, floated through Shannon's mind.
家具じゃないよ。
家具だよ。僕たちは人間未満の存在だよ。姉さんはそこを忘れたふりをして人間のふりをしているだけ。自分でも分かっているはずだよ。
私家具じゃないもん。人間だもん。
いや、人間じゃない。僕らには愛する資格も愛される資格も初め
There's
か
what
ら
it
ない。
boils down to, is Kanon believes that they are not... They lack something to be loved or to experience love, or to love others. It seems that Kanon's criticisms had shifted focus from Shannon's interaction with the witch. Shannon also noticed that
お
quickly.
嬢様に聞いたよ。正直呆れたね。ジョージ様と一緒に旅行に行くなんて、家具の身の程を忘れてるよ。 姉さんはあの魔女にそそのかされて自分が人間になれたと勘違いしてるだけなんだよ。
聞いてカノン君、確かに私たちは家具だよ。人間味を取った未満の存在。でもその満たない分をもし得られたなら、それは人間になれたということじゃないのかな。
そんなもの
あるの。それを得たなら私たちは家具なんかじゃない。
Okay, so at its core, they both agree that they are lesser people to start. I would say that's a flawed premise, but that's the premise they both accept. Difference is that Shannon says if we can acquire that which we are lacking, we can become human. And Kanon disagrees that that is either possible or if that makes them human.
バカバカしい、なれるものか。
Okay, he doubts that they could do that. Shannon spat that out, but weakly, and turned away. That was probably resignation. The baptism of days upon hills of suffering and being furniture had firmly sealed his
なれるよ。
heart.
カノン君も普通の人間に。
よしてよ、魔女の受け売りは。
ベアトリーチェ様に教えてもらったの。私たちは世界の一なる元素を得ることで人間になることができる。それを満たさないならそれは人間じゃない。だから人は一なる元素を得るために。
姉さんが何を言っているのかわからないね。よまよい事なら聞きたくないよ。
ならカノン君にも分かるように教えてあげる。ほら、姉さんの指の先を見て。
Shannon pointed straight at the sea at the horizon. Ken didn't understand what she was actually pointing at, and couldn't do anything except look between the horizon and Shannon's expression. It looked like it was posing a riddle.
カノン君は海が何色に見える？
Just an all too simple question. Kanon tried to guess the meaning behind that question for a while. Since he couldn't think of anything, he gave his answer straightforwardly.
パッとしない。ネズミ色だよ。それが何？
Objectively speaking, the sea, lit up beneath a cloudy sky, could probably be described best by Kanon's words. But as Shannon closed her eyes and smiled, she shook her head slightly.
私には真っ青に見える。
そういう意味？緑色の信号を青っていうようなものでしょ。
違うの。海は真っ青。私には分かって、カノン君には分からないなら、これがつまり。
Kanon bit his lower lip and was silent for a while.
わからないよ。
カノン君、手を出して。
Alright, before we get too far, we had something there. And I feel like we missed something last time. Oh, no, we did read that. So the color owl in Japanese is a range of meanings including pale, fresh, young, and naive. The colors blue and green in one word. And the colors blue and green in one word. Sea and sky are so owl. Fresh grass is owl. And so is the green on a traffic light. Nowadays, Japanese has a native word, midori, for the color green. Use of the broad word owl is still very common. This is the color Shannon's uses to refer to the sea. Kanon wonders if she's using owl to mean something other than blue. As Kanon stood bewildered, unable to understand what she was saying, she took his arm and opened the palm of his hand. Shannon softly set something there. It was that magic brooch which she'd received from Beatrice. A magic charm shaped like a gold butterfly which could fulfill
これ
love.
はあいつの。
これは私の。だから私だと思って粗末にしないで。
After being told that, he couldn't just throw it away. Kanon didn't know what he should do, and just stood there confused for a while, the brooch still on the palm of his hand. Shannon put the palm of her hand on top of Kanon's, and the brooch was warmed by both their hands.
本当の魔法の力を持ったお守り。きっとカノン君に大切な気持ちを教えてくれると思うの。
あいつの魔法で教えられることなんて。
あるの。だから身につけて、恥ずかしければ懐に忍ばせておくだけでもいいそうなの。
バカバカしい。あいつの魔法なんかに惑わされてたまるか。
Even as he said that, Kanon couldn't be cold-hearted towards something Shannon was pressing on him. In the end, Kanon agreed reluctantly to take it. Thank goodness you're here, streamed Visual Novels Boy. Thank goodness you're here, man who makes houses have inexplicable problems, man. I'm pretty sure I said man twice there, but... Shannon smiled and nodded back.
きっとカノン君は大切なことを学べるよ。きっと人間になれるから。そうすればきっとカノン君にもこの海が美しい青に見えるに違いない。
ネズミ色は何度見たってネズミ色さ。
違うよカノン君。そう見えるのは愛がないから。
I think the word that's dashed out there is the word love. Because of the howling wind, I'm able to catch the critical part of what she just said. As Shannon said it once more. Single element of the world. She spoke once more of a world full of that element, where the sea was deep blue.
きっとカノン君にも真っ青な海が見えるよ。
Yeah, no worries, Beardy. We got a short stream. We're only around for about the next 50 or so minutes anyways. Everyone's alive for now.
だって
Without love, it cannot be seen.
そこにいるのは誰か。
カノンです、親方様。
It was rare for Kinzo to leave his study. However, that in itself didn't mean his noble research had been suspended. He may have left the study for a change of mood. His thoughts filling his head were no different than those he had inside the study. But Kanon knew that no matter what the time, speaking to Kinzo when he didn't want to be spoken to would always be a disturbance to his research.
天気が重いな。崩れるのか。
はい、天気予報ではいつ雨があってもおかしくないと。傘をお持ちいたしましょうか。
それには及ばん。しばらく私を放っておくがいい。息子たちに聞かれても所在は知らぬと言っておけ。私は自らの思考を巡る旅で忙しい。
かしこまりました。
I started early exactly because I knew I would have to end
それ
early.
では失礼いたします。
I also had the opportunity to start early. Most times I start as early as I can. It just happens to be that on Fridays, most times that is much later. During that time, Kanon bowed to him. Kinzo had already returned to his own world, and forgotten that Kanon was there. Once again, he began rambling to himself. Amidst those words, the name of the witch was repeated many times.
Oh, Beatrice. お前の微笑みに手が届かぬ。どうすればよみがえるのか。どうすれば再び微笑んでくれるのか。何が足りぬ。研究か資料か触媒か。それとも魔力か運気か信託か。ああ、ベアトリーチェ、どうすればお前の面影をもう一度見ることができるのだ。
As we've just learned, no matter what Kinzo does, it seems he is destined never to meet Beatrice again, except, I guess, when she kills him. Simply because he does not have the, magical abilities innate to view her. As Kanon listened to his master's weeping voice over his shoulder, he turned around just once. When he did, right behind his isolated old master was the silhouette of a person that shouldn't have been there. it was the witch. At once, Kanon was thinking that the witch must be plotting to do Kinzo some harm. Quickly ran back to Kinzo, trying to become a shield himself. But when he saw the expression on the witch's face, that emotion of his vanished. Because Beatrice's expression was one of sorrow, or maybe pity.
愚かな金蔵。わらわはここにいるというのに。
Right behind Kinzo, as he repeated the witch's name over and over, desiring to be reunited for more than anything else, was the witch herself. Yet Kinzo couldn't notice a thing. Even when Beatrice tried to rest her hand on his shoulder, he didn't notice a thing.
なぜだ、なぜベアトリーチェの微笑みに手が届かぬのか。月齢か、水星の周期か、惑星の配列か。何が足りぬのだ、何が。
無駄よ、金蔵。愛がなければ見えない。
Without love, it cannot be seen. Kanon took the brooch eater seed from Shannon out of his pocket. He learned something that would enable him, too, to see that what he currently could not.
愛がなければ見えない。
He looked at Kinzo's back once more. The witch was no longer there. So while that was going on, and I was doing some research on Samus's question of, is this a question arc? I learned something. So originally, Umineko was divided into just 8 different arcs, not 4 question and 4 answer arcs. The reason why they're now referred to as question and answer arcs, and this is officially how they're separated on Steam, is that when Higurashi became more popular, and Higurashi is defined into 4 question and 4 answer arcs very strictly, people just started using the same terminology with Umineko, and eventually they relented because that's just how people were describing it. But it's not designed to be in the same way that Higurashi is, with a 1-to-1 ratio of what are the questions and what are the answers, and which arc corresponds to which other arc. So if you're trying to find an exact, this question arc has this answer arc, you may not find that. I also, to give fairness to the other side, I did see a lot of people arguing that there are, at its core, a series of questions that each one is trying to ask and then give you information on. So this is things of, where did Maria's rose go? How were all of the murders done? Was it done by a human or a demon? Is Beatrice real? These kinds of questions. And that's what we're looking for answers for. The biggest event for the Ushiromiya family in fall was the family conference in October. But for Jessica, there was another one before that, the school cultural festival. Jessica liked school. To her, it was a place where she could let out the stress she'd been built up during the rigid lifestyle she was forced to lead at home. It is nice that it's not so strict. If I'm not a writer, but if as a writer you're giving yourself that, I feel like it kind of puts you into a box where you have to write your story in a specific way to answer a specific set of questions. However, there is the nice piece of, I have this specific question from this specific arc. I know the answer to that is in this corresponding thing as a viewer or reader. For the Culture Festival today, she had formed a group with her friends and were performing casual pop rock on a temporary stage. She kept on preparing and practicing for that and was really looking forward to today. There was one thing that had been worrying her. She looked at the clock. There was still a little time, but she was uneasy. Would he really come? She was about to breathe out a stress-relieving sigh. Her heart jumped as all of her friends suddenly started speaking in shrill voices.
嘘、ひなの彼氏超イケてんじゃん。マジすごくない？マジすごくない？銀の彼氏すっごい頭良さそう。あれでド S メガネなの？マジ本当？
ダメダメ、うちの旦那ギャル男だし。
This joke might have been lost. Gyaru is typically, first of all, something that you say for a woman. And it's typically more of a, like, how to say, like someone who's like really into like fashion and looks and that kind of thing. It's not necessarily the case that all girls are like this, but at Jessica's school at least, the cultural festival was really a boyfriend exhibition. Jessica didn't have a boyfriend. She had many friends of the opposite sex, but no special one. But Jessica was a little famous around the school, and everyone naturally expected that she had a fitting partner. Furthermore, her pride had caused her to act like that was the case. Through such acting and dodging of questions, she had somehow managed to keep the bluff up until this year. But for various reasons, she hadn't been able to escape this year's cultural festival.
Jessie, 彼氏来た？
So we get Jessica in her school outfit.
仕事忙しいのかな。
ジェシーの彼氏、どんな人なの？せめてヒントだけでも出してよ。
何系？何系？
すごいよね。社会人なんでしょ？スーツとかで来る？もちろんメガネかけてるよね。キャー！ねえ、でも本当はいないんだよね。今素直に白状したら私の仲間に入れてあげるって。一緒にこの文化祭を涙で濡らそうよ。
いや、いる、本当にいるって。
Very convincing laugh. Jessica laughed awkwardly, covered with cold sweat. Extremely doubtful whether she had deceived her sharp-witted friends.
Hi. なら彼氏さんの偽物を立てて連れて行くというのはどうでしょうか。
Some Kanon?
偽物？誰を？そんなのに心当たりねえぜ。
Kanon's ridiculous plan surprised Jessica wildly. Even so, it's a little more realistic than the unrealistic method running through her head of getting a boyfriend in a huge hurry before the day of the cultural festival.
例えばですが。
She said to her friends, "This is what my boyfriend says to me." Well, I guess we know what he's off busy doing then. Yeah, he's here.
カノン君なんてどうでしょう。
He may be in the principal's office right now.
カノン君？ダメ！というか、きっとカノン君文化祭の日は仕事に決まってるぜ。迷惑かけちゃ悪いしさ。
もちろん予定表も確認済み。カノン君はその日お休み。
こんな時ばっかり容量がいいのな。じゃなくて、休みならもっと悪いぜ。せっかくの休みを私の見栄のために引っ張り出せないよ。
カノン君は引っ張り出されないといっつも閉じこもってばかりいますので、無理に引っ張り回すくらいでちょうどいいかと思いますよ。
そうなの？いや、でもカノン君に悪い。
なら晩作つきますね。おとなしく彼氏はいませんと白状なされてはいかがでしょうか。それは肩身の狭い思いをなされるでしょう。卒業までの短くも長い間を耐え忍ばれるだけでございますし、愛し合う恋人同士にとって独り者のひがみ顔が何にも勝る甘い蜜なのです。
シャーの私のために本気で悩んでないでしょ。おちょくってるでしょ。
Jessica wrestled about with Shannon, her eyes teary. Shannon was unconcerned, laughing with her usual smile.
私とジョージ様のことを茶化してばかりのお嬢様への仕返しです。
That comeback of Shannon's, the likes of which didn't happen even once a year. Jessica rolled around in her bed, hugging her cushion, writhing and suffering. Shannon's triumphant smile was unbearably frustrating, but right now she was the only person Jessica could talk with. She could wait until later to suffocate her with a cushion.
いいじゃないですか、お嬢様。文化祭ではありますが、カノン君と一緒に遊びに行くチャンスですよ。
いや、それはそうだけど。いや。
Jessica buried her head in her favorite cushion to hide the fact that her face had grown bright red. She bit away at her thumbnail. It really was a reaction to be appreciated. Shannon and Jessica were about the same age, of the same sex, and they were also friends. They were both right in the middle of puberty. They never talk enough about things related to love. That's why they were able to be open with each other about these topics. Jessica had heard in detail about Shannon and George's love, how Shannon and George's love was progressing. The other side, Shannon had heard the details of what type Jessica liked, what kind of man she might be interested in. Judging by Jessica's reactions, it would probably be crude to talk about that in detail. But we won't get anywhere with Jessica just rolling around on the bed forever, so to be blunt, Jessica had been thinking about Kanon ever since he had first appeared. There were almost no young men on Rokenjima, so maybe it was natural that Jessica, as a girl in puberty, had become interested in Kanon. But if anyone said that, it would destroy the romance of a maiden's pure heart, and of love at first sight. Shannon had been with Kanon the whole time at the Welfare Institute, so she had known him since before they'd started working. So Jessica had asked persistently about what kind of person he was, what his hobbies were, what his favorite foods were, what type of girl he liked. Even Shannon could clearly tell that Jessica was infatuated with Kanon.
もう。カノン君をデートに連れ出せるいい機
Remind me
会
not
じゃあ
to
りま
get
せんか。
telegrams from your parents.
でも、カノン君にだって好きな人とかいるかもしれないし。私なんかの見えっ張りに付き合わせたら気を悪くするぜ。
お嬢様のような素直じゃない方を何でしたっけ、ジョージ様に習いました。そうそう、ツンドラとか言うそうですよ。
There's some kind of tsundere. It's the word tundra converted. Sundora is the Japanese pronunciation of tundra. Uses a pun in reference to the term tsundere. Okay. It's composed of two words, sun and dere, meaning aloof or cranky and love-struck. Aggressive and cold behavior and then become lovey-dovey under some circumstances.
あと十数年かすると流行るんだそうですよ。
They'll be quite popular a few decades from now. Does George have the phone wave?
へえ、さすがジョージ兄さんだな。未来のトレンドがわかるのかよ。すげえぜ。じゃなくてってことは、私ってタイプは時代がずれてるってことじゃねえかよ。もうダメだ。
Did she just like smack herself in the head with a pan? Ultimately, Jessica wasted several days before finally agreeing to the plan of having Kanon pretend to be her boyfriend.
Hi, お嬢様。お呼びでしょうか。
Jessica realized that she'd called him at a bad time and immediately regretted it. Kanon had always had a sour look. Even so, he had some good days and some bad days. Unfortunately, this reaction was the later. The latter.
いや、そのさ、
All that confidence and effort she had amassed by practicing in front of the mirror all night was wiped out in about 5 seconds. Jessica turned bright red and hung her head. Watching her, Kanon sighed. Jessica thought he was getting fed up with her, and her face went
シャ
pale.
ノンから聞いています。お嬢様の学校の文化祭へお供するようにというお話です。
I'm sure someone will give Kanon a hug soon. It'll just be with both hands and around his neck.
シャノンナイスじゃなくて、 だけど、その、当日の予定は、どうかな。
シャノンから、当日は特にお嬢様にお仕えするよう、厳命されております。僕は高校には行ったことがないのでわかりませんが。何でも、男性の付き人がいないと、大変肩身が狭い場だとか。後ろ宮本家令嬢が庶民に劣ることがあってはならないと。
シャノンは後でぶっ殺す。
Jessica kept yelling with a strange voice, a broken smile, and steam pouring from her head as if she were a boiler. Kanon watched this. He sighed again. Kanon wasn't an idiot either, even though apparently he's never been to high school. He fully understood what Jessica intended by inviting him. However, in truth, he found it nothing but bothersome to go along with the lady's game of love. But Shannon had spoken to him persistently about it. He was very indebted to her for many things. He couldn't refuse. And in his pocket was that brooch. And this strange turn of events also been brought about by the magic power residing in this brooch. Ridiculous. Those words of Shannon's came to mind. What did Shannon see that I cannot? I don't understand Shannon's feelings. We are furniture. As if we could become something more than that. Jessica, still rambling on in a strange voice, and Kanon, sighing deeply, were a truly odd combination. So odd we had to go black and white.
ジェシー、人が来てるよ。聞こえてないの？ごめん。誰？
My friends all gathered together. We were looking this way with hard-to-describe expressions, whispering to each other in low voices that couldn't be called low. Even I felt kind of shameless. Should I just say sorry who? Like I don't know who's shown up? Crap, my mind is blank.
嘘！あれジェシの彼氏？かわいい！
He looks like he's going to melt in this jacket.
本当に彼氏いたんだ。マジ嘘本当？ジェシカの裏切り者。すっごい素敵じゃん。年下なんて聞いてないよ。どこジェシの彼氏ってどこそうだって本当？
I'm glad I'm not having to read these lines out loud.
いや遅かったじゃねえかよ。
昇降口がわからなかったもので遅くなって申し訳ございません。
いやその格好も似合ってるぜ。
シャノンが普段着では良くないと言って先日一緒に買い物を似合いませんでしたでしょうか。
そんなことないよ。シャノン後で2階級特進。
What? Oh, I was like, why is it posthumous? And then I remembered that Jessica is going to strangle her. So she's going to go back, strangle Shannon, and then promote her 2 ranks posthumously. Okay, makes sense.
なんだかここは女の人ばかりで居心地が悪いです。
だよな。さここじゃなくてステージの方に行こうぜ。
Yeah, at least she's consistent.
もうすぐ私たちの出番だからさ。
It seemed that Jessica was just as uncomfortable. Looked like she was finding it difficult to cope while bathed in everyone's interested gaze. When he saw Jessica's appearance, Kanon thought that he might have made things difficult for her by
な
coming.
んだか迷惑をおかけしているような気がします。お邪魔だったでしょうか。
そんなことないって。
僕がお邪魔でしたらいつでも言ってくだされば。
Okay, I'm not sure why they're specifically specifying this, but you see over the I, so the word I in Japanese can be said in different ways depending on how you want your gender to be perceived. So there's boku, which is a very masculine pronoun. There's watashi, which is more gender neutral, I would say, leaning a little bit more feminine, and atashi, which is the very feminine one. So for whatever reason, they're calling out here that he's using the very masculine pronoun I. Because apparently that's what girls like. Okay, this one I didn't know. Apparently, KTKR is the Japanese short form for OMG. I mean, if people want recommendations, there are visual novels that I haven't done on stream. A lot more in kind of the romance side. Anything key is really good. There was one that I flirted around with a bit about, should I get it, should I not? And I ended up deciding not, just because I do love visual novels, but I wanted to focus on ones that were a bit darker. Because I think they get less visibility, I think, especially on stream. They're niche. Umineko itself is like very niche. It did not have a good commercial success in North America or in the Western world. But if people do want suggestions, I do have other ones.
カノン君、3秒でいいから目つぶっててくれるかな。
ではつまります。
Kun is a friendly suffix typically used for towards a masculine person. So in terms of suffixes that you might hear, you have kun and chan. Chan is for someone who's very young, a child, say like 7 or younger, or for a close female or feminine identifying person. San is just the like stereotypical respectful one that you'd use for anyone older than yourself, or for people in like a workplace, or just people that you're not really familiar with. And then sama, which is the one he used a couple back, is something that you'd use for someone of a very like high rank, so like a king, a deity or god of some kind, or like the master of a house, things like that. And there's others, but those are probably the common ones. And to not use a suffix is a very big deal. It means that you are very close with that person, and it's usually only reserved for close friends, lovers, that kind of thing. When Kanon opened his eyes, for some reason there was a horrible tragedy in the room. Everyone had been driven into the walls, their arms and legs outstretched. Jessica put her brass knuckles in her pocket before Kanon opened his eyes.
とにかくステージの方に行こう。私たちの出番はもうすぐだから、しばらく席で待っててよ。私たちは準備あるからさ。
Yeah, basically.
この先、突き当たりまで行けば仮設舞台があるからわかるぜ。そこで待ってて。
And Sean is baby girl. Kanon seemed to be having a hard time adjusting. Pushing him in the back, Jessica sent him out into the corridor. Even though Kanon was confused by Jessica's attitude and show of agitation, which he had never seen before, he followed her instructions and headed in the direction she had indicated. After seeing him off with an awkward smile, Jessica slammed the door shut and yelled loudly.
見たね？見たでしょ？満足した？ざまあねえぜ！賭けに負けた。絶対ジェシに彼氏なんかいないと思ってたのに。彼氏じゃないんでしょ？使用人へのパワハラでしょ？
Ding ding ding, we have a winner.
ジェシの彼氏素敵だお。いやいや、
ほらほら、準備準備。
Jessica took the brass knuckles out of her pocket again, and everyone energetically returned to their tasks. Kanon went down the corridor as Jessica had told him to and found a temporary stage set up where the vending machine should have been, probably being shared in time slots between the individual groups and clubs. A student group was singing and the place was already fired up. Disliking the ruckus, he found a dark wall to lean against, alone. So this is what they call high school. Sure is noisy, Kanon thought. Then he remembered Jessica just now, acting in a way he'd never seen before. Honestly, she was in such high spirits that alcohol might have been involved. To him, the greatest virtue for a person was to always be composed and intellectual. In that sense, it was very hard for him to get used to the atmosphere in a school cultural festival. He had the responsibility of reporting everything he saw or heard to the master. He would also have to report about Jessica's unrestrained behavior earlier. At the very least, it was not fitting for the daughter of the Ushirimiya main family. The master, Kraus-sama, and especially Natsuhi-sama, would probably be angry. If I were to report it in a way that protects Milady, should I blame it on inappropriate school friends? Kanon thought back on how Jessica had acted earlier and sighed again. He could understand Natsuhi's headache a little now. Come to think of it, Natsuhi-sama was the president of the PTA, the Parent-Teacher Association, who had gone straight to a social after attending the ceremony in the gymnasium. Hadn't she said that she wouldn't be there to see Milady's event? That was probably for the best. Several female students kept glancing at me. It seemed they're all whispering the same sorts of things that Milady's school friends had said, and it was really unpleasant. Come to think of it, didn't Shannon warn me? I'm gonna walk around a school festival on my own. I better watch out because a lot of strange people would come and talk to me.
お一人ですか?
Just as expected, a group of girls I'd never met started talking to me. Their stare started to make my back tingle. Didn't she tell me some magic words that could chase them off in times like this?
すみません。連れがいますので。
そうですか。ごめんなさい。
It worked. Instant reaction. Well, that got them to go away, but it really hasn't changed the number of people staring at me.
違うよ。あの子だよ、ジェシーの彼氏。嘘。あの子が？信じらんないよね。絶対にエアだと思ってたよ。可愛いじゃん。年下？いいなぁ。
No way I'm ever coming to a place like this again. Kanon sighed for about the 100th time that day. As he did, the lighting changed and the standing audience started cheering. Looking around, I realized that there was suddenly a large number of people here. Unlike earlier, they were all guys. This huge crowd, I couldn't even see the stage. Fortunately, there was a fallen beer case nearby. Why is there a beer case at your high school? But I tried using that as a footstool. I noticed that there was now a new group on the stage. The leader was Milady. She had changed into stage clothes and was even holding a guitar. I didn't know she could play. No, maybe she could. I have seen her practicing air guitar before. That's totally how you practice, right? Natsuhi-sama wouldn't approve of any hobbies outside of study. Maybe she was always practicing in secret. Come to think of it, she'd been returning really late from school recently, hadn't she? Maybe she's been practicing at school, far away from Natsuhi-sama's prying eyes. It really is for the best that Natsuhi-sama didn't come. If Milady were to get scolded by Natsuhi-sama after putting in so many hours of practice in, she'd probably be very dejected. There we go. Our resident musician has confirmed air guitar helps you play actual guitar. I could hear Jessica-sama's forceful voice through the speakers. Jessie-sama? Maybe that's her nickname at school. Students in the audience kept calling out that name. I must be really good at guitar then, because I didn't know how to play. Someone tried to teach me a few chords, I remember none of it. That was about 11 years ago, so I must be amazing now. Jessica-sama was in great spirits as they kept calling her Jessie-sama. They're probably her fans. With her mic performance, she was responding to that and firing the place up. Almost like a song program on TV. I've got my ukulele next to me, but I don't own a guitar. I got my trumpet here as well. First I thought all this was frivolous, but that feeling's now changed into appreciation. This was pretty incredible in its own way. The bagpipes did not make it on the move. Kanon had never listened to music of his own free will, but he often heard the kind of music that the people of the Ushiromiya family liked. Yeah, they got squished. I don't know if you remember, I used to have my ocarina that the cat knocked off my desk and that shattered. Interesting. Never thought of it that way. That's a good way to put it. Oh, you guys have a license? Since that was almost all classical music, Kanon had naturally started liking classical music too. So to Kanon, the songs Jessica and the others were singing were, how can you say it, very modern. In any case, he thought of if Natsuki-sama heard it, she would probably faint. Okay, here's my air guitar. I know there's just drums now, but... Everyone looked like they were having a really good time. The die-hard fans had even brought pen lights, sang along, dancing crazily with the exact same movements as though it had all been planned ahead. On the stage, Jessica-sama also sang enthusiastically, dripping with sweat. You couldn't find a single element that was appropriate for a daughter of the Ushiromiya family, but it looked like she was having a lot of fun. She sings a Toho song, that's great. I couldn't keep up with the atmosphere, but anyway, Milady was full of life and looked like she was having a great time. As I looked at Milady having a great time, I thought, isn't this what Ushiromiya Jessica is really like? Don't I know better than anyone just how badly life on Rokkenjima kills your own sense of self? From the time she spends, not as Milady, the successor to the Ushiromiya family, but as a single girl called Jessica, living life to the fullest must be very important to her. I worked close to Milady, saw her in all seasons, and thought I knew everything about her. That was only a single limited side of her, Milady of Rokkenjima. We are furniture. We serve on Rokkenjima and end our lives in Rokkenjima. You can quit, Kanon. I hope you know that. You can just quit and leave. You don't have to, like, die there. Although, that's probably what's going to happen soon. So I just come to think that Rokkenjima itself is our whole world, as though, just like in the old geocentric theories, the ocean spilled off the end of the world into an abyss. But as I looked at Milady like this, I realized that this was a horribly narrow outlook. I still couldn't keep up with the excitement of the crowd. I felt like I'd seen something that cannot be seen on Rokkenjima. Although I don't know if that's what the unseeable thing Shannon was talking about. I still can't see the ocean as blue.
今日はジェシカの学校の文化祭だったな。校長先生はお元気でおられたかね。
I just realized I never started the thought. I'm glad no one redeemed anything that could have been used by it, because I completely forgot to start it. There we go, now it's connected.
Eh, お元気なようでした。そうそう、高宮議員もおいでになっておりました。あなたによろしくと特に言っておりましたよ。
相変わらずご多忙そうかね。
そのようでした。
I see Samus has found that we have a new redeem. I can confirm pressing W does nothing. Trying to think what would have done something.
あの方も精力的な方です。
The keys actually do something.
そうそう。あと、榎本会長もおいででしたっけ？
You did not. S did something, I think. Oh, A. A is auto. Glad we didn't get that one. Naturally, the topic of Jessica's cultural festival came up at dinner. It was the same for the Ushirimiya family, who are big names around this area. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a... What is that? Z pulls up the menu, or disables it. A is auto. I'm worried because one of these might be like skip ahead. We don't have any updates on any characters, right? No. Does Natsui remember the names of the important people at the social? She updated Kraus on the news concerning them. Hi, Mauka. Jessica didn't really have any interest in that discussion, and rudely slurped her pumpkin soup.
お嬢様、あまりお行儀がよろしくないかと。
へいへい、そりゃあ悪かったぜ。
ジェシカ、そういう言葉遣いは改めるよう、いつも言っていますよ。
we just go in, and you just see, like, Beatrice, like, standing behind George's portrait or something with a knife. Jessica answered, discouraged. She saw that Kraus smiled a little and interrupted his conversation with Natsuhi.
ジェシカの方はどうだったかね。
見ていましたよ。よく頑張っていましたね。
Jessica's face turned bright red. Brilliant thought that Natsu would actually come to see her on the stage. She felt a mix of happiness and embarrassment. Actually, she hadn't wanted her mother to watch because she didn't want to be told that her music was inappropriate for the Ushirimiya family. But it wasn't as though it didn't make her happy to hear her parents say that she did a good job after watching her try her best.
ジェシカもなかなか落ち着きと貫禄が出てきましたね。生徒代表にふさわしい振る舞いでしたよ。
I don't know what concert you watched. The smile that had been there a second ago crumbled like sand. Jessica immediately realized that she was talking about something different. Jessica was also the school's student president. She had no interest in something so annoying, but her parents had been pushy, so she had grudgingly accepted. Unfortunately, she was popular in school, so she'd actually won the election easily. Natsui was praising her for the ceremony organized by the student council at the beginning of the cultural festival. Actually, she just carried that out half-heartedly. She'd immediately met up with her friends and had held a stage rehearsal for the rest of the
人の
time.
上に立ち責任を背負うという経験は必ず将来役に立つ。
The experience of standing above people will definitely be useful in the future. Yeah, love that statement.
後ろ宮家の人間としてきっとジェシカを成熟させてくれるだろう。
ただ、挨拶が少し早口でした。内容は及第点でしたが、早い口調はそれを薄れさせます。一呼吸置く癖をつけるといいでしょう。
Remember to breathe. Is that how we have debates now? Instead of the parties answering like questions in traditional sense, they have to write a song about their platform and then play that at the like jam off. After she finished eating, Jessica didn't feel like going straight to her room. Say that her room was the place where her parents had specified for her to be. So maybe you could say that for Jessica, choosing not to return to her own room and instead disappearing to an unknown location in this large mansion was a meager form of resistance. Jessica felt that even being in the mansion made it hard to breathe, so she went outside to the rose garden.
まあ、来たところでどうせ後ろ宮家の跡継ぎとしてふさわしくないとかなんとか言うんだろうぜ。ならこれでいいんじゃねえかよ。
Jessica laughed at what she was sulking over, laughed at what kinds of words she would have had to receive to be satisfied. Ridiculous. And I'm just a spoiled little kid. Can't believe myself. It's almost funny.
お嬢様。
カノン君か。
Or you just have to be the only guy. Kanon had suddenly started talking to her just as she had tried to force a laugh, so she choked.
何？なんかよ。
その。
Jessica's expression had become the one Kanon always saw. The listless Jessica from a second ago was gone. If he only still knew about Jessica as the successor to the Ushiromiya family as he did until today, he would have mistakenly thought that Jessica's mood had sprung back to normal, but that was wrong. He now knew a part of her that he could not see until today. He understood that there was no way that, on the inside, Jessica was just as she appeared.
今日は文化祭、いや、私の見栄に付き合ってくれてありがとうな。
Well, we'll see. I mean, so far, what this arc has been about is a lot of relationships, and relationships specifically between the servants and the family of the house.
助かったぜ。
And it's not to say that even if they're canon in this arc, that they're always canon.
お上手でした。
え？そうかよ。照れるぜ。
Even though she'd heard the words that she had most wanted to hear, Jessica became shy and couldn't accept them frankly.
僕には歌は歌いません。楽器も小学校で習ったハーモニカとリコーダー笛しか知りません。だからお嬢様も同じだろうと決めつけていました。
Kanon hadn't been consciously looking down on Jessica to that degree. The people playing unique instruments were always on the other side of the bronze tubes in the TV. He'd gotten into his head that it would be impossible for Jessica, at least.
僕は家具だから歌を歌う必要も。But
I'm not sure anymore.
カノン君、その家具だからって口癖。使用人の心得ってやつだろ。使用人は生きた家具であれってやつ。源氏さんがよく口にしてるもんな。
心得というわけでは本当に家具ですし。
福音の家の子たちがいろいろじい様から援助をもらってるってのは知ってるし、それに恩義を感じてるのも知ってるよ。でもだからって家具なんて言い方はあんまりだぜ。私たちは同じ人間じゃないかよ。カノン君は私が歌ってるのを見てどう思った？
とても楽しそうに見えました。
それは多分違うぜ。
え？
楽しそうに見えたんじゃなくて羨ましかったんじゃない？
そんなことは。
Even Kanon himself probably hadn't noticed that emotion. Kanon had seen something he'd never seen before, never known of before, and had probably become jealous. And to trick himself about that emotion, he'd called himself furniture over and over.
私は後宮家の跡継ぎだかなんだかだそうで、まあいろいろな面倒がこれからもあると思う。それについては運のない星の下に生まれちまったと諦めるしかないさ。多分カノン君が福音の家で生活しなければならなかったのと同じに、私たち自身にはどうしようもない。
I mean, you didn't have a choice, sure, but one of you grew up in immense privilege and the other did not.
生まれる星は選べなかった。
そうかもしれません。
ただ、私とカノン君では大きく違うところが一点ある。わかる？
I am furniture and you are not. He was about to say, but
わかりま
stopped.
せん。
カノン君は自らの運命が自分の全てだと思って諦めた。私はこんな運命じゃ納得できないから自分の思い切りを頑張ろうと思った。だから後宮家のお嬢様をやらなければならない窮屈な自分と、自分の好きなことに精一杯な自分というもう一人を作った。
もう一人の？
カノン君は自分のことを家具だからと言い聞かせてきた。そう言い聞かせなきゃならない辛いことがきっとたくさんあったんだと思う。それについては本当に気の毒だと思う。でもそれだけでカノン君の人生を全て決めちゃうなんて。人はさ、自分の中に自分が本当に好きになれるもう一人の現実逃避とかとは違うぜ。そのもう一人の自分でいるとき、私は最高に生きているって実感できる。だから普段の日常がどんなに窮屈で退屈でも、私はきっと窒息せずに生きていけるってわけ。
自分の中に自分が本当に好きになれる自分を作る。
Make another me, which isn't furniture. Through her relationship with George-sama, has Shannon given birth to a part of herself that isn't furniture? Did this other Shannon see something that cannot be seen by furniture?
私さ、カノン君のプライベートって全然知らないぜ。でもなんだか想像できる。カノン君のプライベートには多分何もない。図星でしょ？
Ken couldn't reply, but that was answer enough. He had no concept of private life. So canon would always be canon. So furniture would always be furniture.
カノン君のカノンってさ、
The Gospel House gave new students new families and a new life, so it also made a point of giving each of them a new name. In his case, that was canon.
確かに僕のこの名は仮のものかもしれません。
He had thought that he wasn't anyone other than canon, but he remembered. There had definitely been a part of him that wasn't canon. That was far, far away, beyond the distant fog of oblivion.
ならカノン君にもカノン君である時とそうでない時で違う自分が使用人である時のカノン君は自らを家具と呼び厳しく自己を戒めてるかもしれない。でもカノン君じゃない時の君はもっともっと自由に生きていいと思うんだ。
Those words definitely weren't just lip service. Jessica had also been like this in the past. She had cursed her own birth into an environment different from all other friends at school. She had been the only one in a heavily constricted environment, forced to learn various things. She had even received words about the friends she played with. Though she'd been sad about that, she had given up, thinking that she had just been born under that kind of star. But one day, Jessica had stopped giving up and surrendering. Stuff like the Ushirimiya family customs and pressure, those didn't matter. She'd created a real Jessica inside herself, who could do what she really wanted to do.
私さ、学校ではジェシってあだ名で呼ばれてる。だからさ、ジェシであるときは自分に思い切り素直に生きてる。だからこそジェシカであるときも頑張れるんだ。カノン君にもカノンであるときとカノンじゃなくてその本名であるときで違う生き方をしてもいいんじゃないかな。カノンじゃないとき自分を好きになれる自分になってみてもいいんじゃないかな。
僕が カノンじゃないとき。
He thought that his real name didn't matter at all. He thought Kanon was all he was, and now Jessica was saying she should create a new existence, another self that wasn't Kanon.
嫌じゃなきゃ教えてよ、本当の名前。なんていうの？
So I believe Shannon's was Sayo. He was silent for quite some time. Maybe his real name had risen to the tip of his tongue. Hesitating for a long time over whether he should say it, in the end, he swallowed it back down.
忘れました。僕の名前など。もう
Those words signified a slight
僕
rejection.
が本当は何という名前であったとしても、今ここにカノンとしてあることだけが現実です。過去など何の関係もない。作られた家具の材料が元は何という木の幹であったかなんてどうでもいいことと同じです。
だからよせって。家具じゃないんだぞ。君は人間だぜ。
僕は人間じゃない。
Kanon clearly spoke his refusal, with a rage that he didn't normally show. Jessica couldn't say anything back and was struck silent.
お嬢様は人間です。だからどんな生き方をしようとも自由で、どんな未来も可能性もある。それはまるで翼を持ち自在に空を舞う鳥のよう。でも僕にはそんなものはないんです。僕がたとえ鳥に見えたとしてもアヒルに過ぎない。
His real name was Panic.
アヒルに翼はあっても飛ぶことはできない。なのに空の夢を語るなんて、そんなのは残酷すぎる。
家具だのアヒルだの。なんだってんだよ一体。いや。
Jessica had unconsciously gone along with Kanon's forceful manner of speaking, but she realized that she shouldn't fire back and swallowed her words.
私は君のことを何も知らない。生い立ちも知らないし、その苦労も知らない。だから君がどうして自分を家具だなんて言い出すようになったのか。でも知って、君は家具でもアヒルでもない。ちゃんとした人間だぜ。
No one tell Panic, okay? Let's all convince him that he's furniture and a duck.
使用人としてのカノン君が家具だと言うなら、それでもいいよ。でもならカノン君は家具でない時の人間の時の自分を作ってもいいとは思わない？
そんな可能性を抱けるのは僕はそうじゃない。僕には未来も可能性も見るべき夢もない。だからお嬢様、それ以上残酷なことを言わないでください。
なんでだよ、なんで。
お嬢様が僕のことをご自分と同じ人間だと勘違いなされているようだからです。僕とお嬢様はそれをはっきり申し上げておきたかったのです。シャノンに聞きました。お嬢様は僕のことをお気に入りになられているとか。
いや。
I wonder if there's a parallel that they're having this conversation just outside the pergola or whatever you call that thing that Shannon and George will later have their engagement conversation at.
だからシャノンのように自分を人間だと錯覚して、でもそれは自分を騙しているに違いない。いえ、お嬢様を騙すことにもなるのです。シャノンとジョージ様も必ず破綻する。その日が訪れることをシャノンだって理解しているだろうに。
バカだってことはないだろ。そりゃジョージ兄さんは立派な人だし、両親の期待も背負ってる。確かに結婚とかになればエヴァおばさんがいろいろと口出しをしてくるだろうし、まあその前途は多難だと思うぜ。でもな、ジョージ兄さんはそんなのに屈する人じゃねえ。シャノンをジュリエットになんかしねえぜ。きっと幸せにしてくれる。
人は家具と恋などできない。お嬢様が家具を愛することができても、僕にお嬢様を愛することができないと。
Those words of Kanon's crushed all of Jessica's bittersweet feelings from today. There's no way she could have anticipated the emotions of such a blunt rejection. In an instant, she lost the willpower that had caused her to try and unravel something stubborn in Kanon's heart. Before she knew it, she was just standing there in
お
shock.
嬢様が僕を好かれているという気持ちが僕の思い上がりによるものならどうかお許しください。
まあ
ありがとうございます。僕を人間だと思ってくれてありがとう。そのお気持ちだけで僕は本当に嬉しいです。そしてそれ以上は僕には残酷すぎるから。
いや、もう十分だぜ。悪かったな。
Jessica scratched her head as she spoke and tried to force her voice to sound
私
right.
一人がいろいろ先走っちゃって迷惑かけたよ。正直ごめん。貴重な休みを丸一日振り回しちゃって。
いえ、僕も楽しそうなお嬢様が見られて嬉しく。
じゃあ今夜はこれで終わりにしようぜ。私も部屋に戻って消灯しないとまた母さんに怒られちまうよ。
そうされた方がよろしいでしょう。おやすみなさいませ、お嬢様。
うん、おやすみ。
Jessica turned her back to him and slowly trotted away, looking disheartened. Suddenly, she started dashing pell-mell and disappeared in the direction of the mansion. He watched her go. For just an instant, Kanon was tormented by the feeling that he'd just made a huge mistake. But no, he thought, this had not been a mistake at all. It was for her sake that he'd been forced to refuse her now, while its pain was still at its smallest.
女を泣かせるとはなかなかやるではないか。お前がそこまで拒絶するとは意外であった。普通に受け答えしていればわらわの魔法で2組目の恋人たちが生まれていたものを。
いつからそこに。
Okay, I know we're in the middle of something good here, but I do have to get going.